the BankTalk podcast, the show where we talk to leaders and experts from the community banking sector. Whether you are a current CEO or aspire to be one, this podcast will give you valuable insights and advice on how to run your financial institution better. Each episode features a different topic and a guest who shares their experience and knowledge with us. Tune in and learn something new with BankTalk podcast.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of BankTalk. I'm your host, Rich Carty, sales executive here at Remedy Consulting. Today we have a great episode lined up with First Fidelity Bank. We'll talk a little bit about their strategy to help with growth on the deposits in their HSA strategy. We'll also be joined by the CEO of Contribute, Philip Paul, and again, John Simcox with First Fidelity. He's the CIO. So without further ado, why don't we get kicked off? Hopefully you enjoy it. John, Philip, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
Thank you. Good to be here.
I appreciate the time, and we're interested, I'm sure, that your audience to hear a little bit more about how things are going over there. But why don't you guys first maybe give an introduction to who you both are and the places you guys are coming from?
Sure. My name is John Simcox, and I'm the Chief Innovation Officer at First Fidelity Bank. We're headquartered in Oklahoma, and we serve the Southwest region of the U.S., and we are a family-owned business, just over 100 years, 105 years old now. And essentially, think of ourselves as a 100-year-old challenger bank. And so we with my position as the Chief Innovation Officer, we feel like we like to challenge the status quo of the marketplace, and Philip is one of our partners.
Well, great to be on this podcast. My name is Philip, and the last name is Paul. I'm the CEO of Contribute. We are a cloud-based B2B platform, and we really helps banks and credit unions accelerate their account, their deposit, and their loan growth. We work with all sorts of core systems and integrate with their legacy systems. But our goal is to help banks and credit unions with growth. We do that three ways. We help them with, customer growth on the business side as well as on the consumer side, and then deposit and loan growth. Good to be here.
Thank you both for the backgrounds and introductions. So talk to us a little bit about, when you guys first decided to partner with each other, how you're helping one another out in that sense and what that maybe looks like.
Sure. I think the biggest part is in our journey, we at First Fidelity Bank have been working with fintech partners for a little over 8 years in that process that had a buzz term a few years back called digital transformation. And we've engaged with multiple partners in the past to solve some of these business problems that we're working on with Contribute now, and they haven't been so successful. And so in that journey, we said, we need to find the absolute best partner that will help us tackle these objectives. And so we went out on a journey to investigate for about 2 years and find partners that we could take a look at and would be flexible enough to serve our niche needs. And so Contribute came up in the research, and we started talking, and it was interesting because when we were talking, it sounded like it was almost too easy. And it was too simple of a choice. And we had been down the road too many times to be fooled by it's going to be so easy for you at your bank to work with us. And so we kind of ran them Contribute through the ringer a little bit. And I think we talked for a little over a year before we decided to really start engaging. And since then, I think one of the parts that's really impressive is Contribute definitely backed up what they had said with what their actions are. So it's been quite the journey to become partners.
If I could just add to that, John, spot on. We talked for about a year, and we've been working with them now and their team since early 2024. and it has been terrific. John and his team are innovators in what they do. And so we've been thrilled to work with them, and it's been a great partnership.
Yeah, and it's always great to hear. We never know what you're signing up for, but the fact that it, is a service that's coming through, you got to appreciate that, I'm sure, John. And Philip, I'm sure you're happy to hear that on your side too. Were there any obstacles, I guess, in terms of, getting this implemented, and, how exactly does that kind of tie into today's systems and so forth?
Yeah, I think, the biggest thing that every fintech partner has is, these, especially us being 105 years old now, we have legacy systems, some of that have been around for 30 years. And we partner with Jack Henry, and Jack Henry's in their own transformation journey to create that open banking capabilities as our core. And that was probably one of the more difficult parts with every vendor we've had, but Cotribute has a system that makes it easy. And we actually achieve connection with our core in less than 2 weeks. And so we were testing after about 10 days. And that's unheard of in the fintech space. And so I think the hurdles that our project came across are very different hurdles than we've ever encountered, which is Cotribute typically has been more prepared and ready to take the next step than our internal teams, because we're used to moving quickly for a bank, but at the same time doing these core connections and building these workflows out for account opening. A lot of times they take weeks and months, and we were able to move faster than we ever have before. But our internal teams, were pretty disrupted and surprised that we would have a meeting, and then a week later we come back and go, "What do you think?" And they're like, "Wait, we weren't ready for this." And so I think the biggest hurdle is having our internal teams be able to handle the pace and the depth of the conversations in such short order, because they have day jobs too, so
Absolutely.
we're stealing their time from other things. And their heads pivoting back so quickly has been a little game changer. But as we went through the project, they became more comfortable, more expectant, and I think it was actually better because it kept the conversations more fresh than we've had in the past.
That's great. No, I mean, moving that quick, you got to like that, whether there is growing pains and so forth. But that's great to hear. I guess, Philip, on your end, John touches upon the core side of it. Working with the legacies or some of the other ones, is that something that you guys are able to do with all technology, or is it usually, you've seen one better than the other per se? I mean, you tell me.
We'll be right back.
Is your technology spend getting a little out of hand? Are you worried about making those big strategic moves because of those hefty vendor contracts? Or maybe you just feel like your technology is currently holding you back. In today's banking world, overspending on technology is a risk you just can't take. Going up against those major vendors on your own can be tough, expensive, and especially when the contracts are designed to benefit them. That's where Remedy can come in. Remedy Consulting helps our clients stay competitive and grow their business with the right technology, products, and their spending strategies. Not a Remedy client yet? Head on over to remedyconsult.net for a free review of your tech stack, spending, and contract terms. Even if you're not the perfect fit, you'll walk away with expert advice and confidence in your technology decisions. Check us out at remedyconsult.net or give us a call at 262-955-7776. Thanks for tuning in, and now let's get back to the episode.
Rich, it's interesting. I think John touched on this. All banks have legacy environments. And so while we work with a host of, different systems, from real-time API connectivity, we've also realized that we need to be able to support a variety of different ways of integrating with systems. So that's what we've actually built. We have adapters, we have different ways of doing it. And I think that's one of our differentiators, and that's why we're able to move with speed. But I think the cool thing is, with John and his team, they are just innovators. And what, we've been able to do is really make sure that the technology works, but we're able to innovate on, how do you get the product to work exactly the way we want? How do we make sure that we could distribute it nationally and scale it up? So we've been able to work on the business front of it with John. So that's been exciting. But yeah, that's part of our, platform is being able to work with all sorts of systems.
Okay. And I guess, in your experience, First Fidelity seems to be doing a nice job, as a partner. Are other FIs, doing similar type things? And what would be, what are some of the things he's doing to have these successful integrations and I guess kind of expediting the type of process in that sense?
Yeah, I think, any institution that has, a growth-oriented leadership team, I think is super successful. And certainly FFB, John and his team have, exhibited that. But that's where we found success, Rich, is where there's an organization that really wants to grow and make their business grow. As long as that approach is there, I think we've been super successful.
Okay. So let's dive into the HSA side of the house here. And, how are they giving banks a competitive advantage and helping in terms of the increasing deposits with new customers and so forth?
Yeah, I think for us at First Fidelity, we're only 2.7 billion. We're creeping up on 3 billion. So we're not a large bank, but we're a big enough bank to really be able to play ball in a lot of spaces. And so we've really carved out some niche areas. And I think that community banks are starting to realize that you can't be all things to all people the way you used to. And HSA happened to be an affinity that we had in the past. We have some partner insurance companies that have used us as for their HSAs, and we've offered an HSA at our bank for over 10 years. But the reality is our HSA that we offered, 10 years ago is the same one that we were offering, 2 years ago. And so as product and as the insurance business has changed, we've seen the opportunity for us to solve our customers' pains because and in fact the bigger piece is our partners that we do other business lines with, insurance companies and HR companies and things like that. They have expressed the need for better options in the HSA space. And since we've been in the business for a while, we needed a way to distribute our onboarding channel into those partners, insurance companies and HR companies who are actually selling those high deductible plans. And so we needed something that was very flexible, but then brought the workflow once it came into the bank, it aggregated the workflow altogether. So we only have one account opening process in operations, but we have 5, 6, however many channels we can put out there. Contribute's really helped us to be able to take that opportunity and really dial into what is it going to take to actually tackle the marketplace and realize that opportunity in what we have today, which is a streamlined HSA account opening process that we can deploy into pretty much any partner that wants to sign up with us.
Interesting. I'm assuming you're getting new customers through that. Is the sole reason to attract them? What are some of the other things that have been able to add on with that strategy?
Yeah, so we're still in I would say, the infancy of this generation of our account opening for HSA. And so we want to respect our partners and not just like oversell them at
Sure.
this point. So we've
Yep.
kept it pretty singular in the lane that we are offering one product to those folks. We do see that opportunity coming down the pike where, we could add bonus features if you open a standard checking account or get your car loan with us or some of those things. And we do have those in the roadmap, but that'll be case by case. And we want to respect that partner and what they're looking for. So, but yes, we are acquiring new customers. The interesting thing is we acquire new customers through this channel. And then we are, even though we're not marketing to them, We are seeing some inquiries starting to pick up as we've rolled over a number of folks into the program where they say, "Hey, what else do you guys do?" So the curiosity is there, and I think there is a hunger for a community bank experience, but in the digital space. And I think that is the part that Cotribute helps us deliver in that first interaction with the customer, is that we not only have an easy account opening process, but it creates clarity and it showcases our brand to be very digital friendly, but also is a community bank experience.
Yeah, I learned of HSAs probably a long time ago at a previous life, and the triple tax advantages immediately kind of jumped out to me and
Mhm.
made me, really interested in that type of thing. And, now I'm reading more and more about, how people can even, put it into a retirement type program and build strategies off that. So I can only see how that ties in a lot of different avenues for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's one of the really cool things about Cotribute is we've got our first version, but our second version is going to be with an investment component, like you're talking about you think about the 25-year-old who goes to the doctor one time a year and gets a Z-Pack from the pharmacy, one time a year, and that's about all they do for 5-10 years, and they just rack up savings. Well, at a certain point, we can compound that investment into their HSA with an investment portfolio on top of their checking account. So Cotribute is gonna help us be able to not only open that checking account, but also open that investment portion in the same workflow if a client chooses to do that. So there are definitely some advantages to having a partner that has flexibility and understands the innovation side of where we have to iterate our processes and are kind of on the same page as us walking down that journey.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Cotribute platform. Is that, how does that better engage customers and help with the growth strategy in that sense?
Yeah, one of our goals is to create this true omni-channel experience. And so, like we talked about HSAs and being able to distribute that account opening in different places. But we also want those same customers, if they chose to walk into a branch or any other place, we would be able to kind of create that seamless onboarding experience.
Yeah.
And so I think that, the technology is really comes down to one engine on the backside and then a completely flexible UI experience on the front side and a flexible workflow that allows us to customize our products. And so our virtual bank is our first forte into delivering all of our products in that space. And then we will, pivot that into the branches and have that seamless experience where you could literally start an application online and then go, you know what? I don't know if I'm picking the right product. Let me walk into a branch or call somebody and they can pick up the application exactly where you left off. And so those kind of thought processes or thought exercises about what does a customer experience actually feel like are evolving. And we as a bank have always kind of, and this is an industry blanket statement, have always been in the world of, we're all about customer service and we're all about, being there for the customer. But then when you go into the operations of banking and the regulations and things like that, we say, okay, but you have to go through this process this way.
Right.
But our people will be the flexibility of that process, right?
Yeah.
Because we're going to help you through or we're going to make decisions, but the tactical side and the technology side has always been pretty fixed and kind of put out there. And what Cotribute does is it allows us to really say, okay, let's be flexible in both the technology side and have our people support it on the other side of it and be just as flexible and really, work with the technology instead of trying to have our people supplement what the technology cannot do. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm sure flexibility is appreciated across, all avenues there. So that's definitely a positive. Philip, talking more about the HSAs, maybe one more question there. They're becoming more and more popular. It's a quick growth, looking at the future. And have you heard anything about expanding eligibility? Because I believe right now you only can use one with an HDHD type plan. Have you heard anything there? And, if you can maybe touch upon that a little bit, that'd be great.
Yeah, we could definitely talk about HSA. I think there's some inherent benefits of HSAs, right? So if you look at the tax advantage approach, but then from a bank's perspective, it's also an accumulation account. It's not like a checking account where money goes in and out. So there's some huge advantages there for the customer as well for the bank. But I think one of the things we've been focused on is really product innovation needs to happen, based on a lot of different things. So our goal is this: with our platform, we want to be able to help FFB, John, and others like them be able to compete with the Chimes, the SoFis, the Moneylines, right? Those kinds of organizations. And for that, I think the technology is, super important, making sure that's an easy, onboarding process, but also being able to make sure that they can innovate on the product. So whether it's HSA, and we support, about 90 additional products like HSA, but regardless of what the product is, being able to innovate, being able to adapt based on regulation, that kind of flexibility is important. So as part of the platform, we let John's team have self-administration tools where they could personalize the flows. They could make different changes based on product innovation that they want to do or based on regulatory things that they see. And then being able to provide deep analytics, right? So, as you look at onboarding for HSA or other products, where are people coming in? Where are they actually falling off? What are the choke points? Being able to give them the analytics so they could look at that and then make changes so that, codelessly they could just configure it and then say, hey, this is what we need to do and be able to distribute it. John talked about distribution channels, but I think that's also a big piece of what we're allowing, our clients to innovate around is being able to take these products, whatever they are, but then distribute them at scale by embedding it, across their ecosystem, whether it's insurance brokers for, HSA or, other, partners.
Right. No, I appreciate that. That makes sense. And I guess, John, for you, what's next? What other avenues are you looking at to help with growth at First Fidelity?
Philip definitely hit the mark on helping us understand our customer journeys and the analytics behind where our customers are coming from, where's the friction in the process, those kind of things. I think as we gain a little context, as we deploy more products through the ecosystem, our main goal is to understand when you're competing with a Chime or a Moneyline or any of those guys, even Cash App and Venmo are starting to behave a lot more like a bank with their account holdings. How do you get to that younger generation of customers where they begin to trust community banks that we can offer this same or better or a unique differentiator than what these apps can, right? And so I think, for us on a growth strategy side, we have to have the breadth of products that has that same simple experience. But then once we have the experience set up, then it'll be more about us being able to tell the story. And that's, something that I think, Contribute also brings to the table is that ability to connect with those customers either in the journey or through email communications or other marketing tactics with that analytics where we can say, okay, how can we increase that conversion rate, or how can we get in front of somebody and say, hey, try us before you buy us, almost. And once they come through that process, we can cross sell them and get more wallet share. So I think, that's really what it is set the table and then tell our story.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Well, guys, anything else I missed or you maybe wanted to touch upon before we kind of wrap it up?
Yeah, Rich, thank you again for having us on the podcast. I think for us, it's very simple. We've been able to help, First Fidelity Bank and, credit unions, but really our goal is to, help them leverage their existing ecosystem, whether it's core systems, online banking systems, legacy systems, and be able to help them compete with the Chimes and the SoFis and the, mega banks and provide, the platform that can really help them innovate on the product and grow. That's our goal. And, we want to get our story across to as many people as possible and help as many people as possible.
Yeah, Rich, one of the final thoughts I have is that I'm just a community banker in kind of a small bank that has big ideas, right? And there are a lot of community banks that are out there that have big ideas. And, I think it's important that, it's not just a few of us that are out there doing things to really challenge the marketplace, but us as an industry have typically worked well together to challenge what is the industry look like in 5 and 10 years. And so I hope there's other community bankers out there that are asking similar or the same questions as what we're asking, is how can we meet our customers where they are and make it easy, simple, and competitive in a marketplace that has essentially been pretty diluted by these digital brands that are out there. And we feel like we can compete in the same space. And so at First Fidelity Bank, we definitely encourage more and more dialogues to find better partners like Cotribute to be able to deliver a customer experience that our customers are actually looking for.
Yeah, I think that's important. It's something that you sign up for and they deliver from what you said at the get-go. That's great to hear, John. Well, thank you both for joining. I really appreciate it. Thanks again for listening to our Bank Talk episode. Everyone have a great day. John, Philip, thank you again, and keep on listening.
Thank you for listening to the Bank Talk podcast brought to you by Remedy Consulting. To reach out to John at First Fidelity Bank or Philip at Cotribute, go to the episode description where their LinkedIn and information is linked. If you like what you hear, please rate, review, and share our work with others. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next episode.